Honourable members, the first item on the order paper is a debate on an urgent matter of national public importance in terms of Rule 130 in the name of Mr. Julius Malema on the decision by the United States government to halt aid to South Africa and the response thereto. I now recognise the Honourable Malema.
Deputy Speaker, on the 20th of September 2001, former President of United States of America, George Bush, declared what became known as the War on Terror on Iraq and Afghanistan, stating that, I quote, "It will not end until every terrorist group of global reach has been found, stopped, and defeated." What followed was a massive disinformation campaign to justify the 2003 invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan under the pretext of locating and destroying weapons of mass destruction. Decades later, no such weapons were ever found. This invasion was about minerals and oil reserves, not weapons of mass destruction. Iraq and Afghanistan have never recovered. Cuba, Libya, Venezuela, and Chile are examples of nations that have suffered from US interventions because of their socialist policies, justified by false intelligence to advance imperialism. Cuba has endured decades of sanctions for nationalization of strategic sectors of the economy, supporting African liberation and socialism, while Libya was destroyed because Gaddafi rejected US dominance. We raise these historical facts because history must guide us in everything we do. When Donald Trump declares that, I open quote, "bad things are happening in South Africa," without evidence, we must not assume that the USA is misinformed. Instead, we must question the real intention behind such statement. After Trump's remarks, the US froze foreign aid globally under the pretext of assessing alignment with the policy outlook. For South Africa, this meant PEPFAR funding of HIV/AIDS response was under threat. On 26 February 2025, the freeze became permanent, terminating funding indefinitely. The US aggression towards South Africa is nothing more than Israel's revenge for our moral stance in support of Palestine. Meanwhile, some of us have been labeled international criminals, a designation used before the West assassinates those who opposed its agenda. Before invading the nations, the US always fabricates human rights violations to justify intervention. Today, same tactics are being used against South Africa. The growing calls by right-wing groups for foreign funding to establish independent states and to be armed by foreign interests must be recognized as part of a broader plan. This is the early stage of economic isolation, leading ultimately to military intervention. Next, AGOA will be terminated, escalating tensions between USA and South Africa. Our government must dismiss opportunistic African and racist groups exploiting US imperialism to fund their racist fantasies of an independent state. That will never happen. We will expropriate land without compensation, whether they like it or not. If they object, they can seek refuge in America. Deputy Speaker, Trump and the USA are not demonstrating strength. The USA is merely displaying an advanced stage of capitalism, which is imperialism. Trump engages in transactional and manipulative relationships with the world like it is his backyard. The hostility towards South Africa does not come from fraudulent boers spreading disinformation, but from America's imperialist agenda. The USA, home of the world's most sophisticated intelligence agencies, agencies that fabricate evidence to justify the invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq, and orchestrated the assassination of Muammar Gaddafi, Patrice Lumumba, Martin Luther King Jr., and Malcolm X, cannot now claim to be victims of disinformation from a minor racist group based in Orania. The USA has openly embraced the golden age of imperialism, extending its power through threats and the prevention and termination of foreign aid. In response, our government foolishly seeks to explain our policies to a maniacal president as if the USA were a victim of misinformation. The USA knows exactly what it's doing and why it is doing it. At a Golden Sachs event of the 27th of February 2025, South Africa President Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa stated, I quote, Trump got the wrong end of the stick of the country's land policies. I completely reject this notion. The USA, home of Elon Musk's platform, X platform, Jeff Bezos, Amazon, Facebook, Google, Tesla, Starlink, and Silicon Valley, the global hub of data collection, cannot claim to be misinformed. They are the greatest perpetrators of disinformation. The USA is the greatest perpetrator of disinformation. It is now using its own falsehood as justification to attack South Africa. This government refused to acknowledge the real issues. We are being punished for supporting Palestine against apartheid Israel, nothing else. The USA does not believe there is a white genocide or land grabs in South Africa. These lies are useful tools to justify economic aggression and seek to weaken our moral authority to condemn Israel's genocide. Foreign aid has always been a tool for Western imperialism and control. It must end with South Africa. We must expand our trade and strengthen relationship with China, India, Russia, Brazil, and Singapore while emphasizing African unity. The USA is on a fool's mission to extort the world into submission, and as a result will become increasingly isolated. Our sovereignty, security, and economic prosperity on rejecting the American Golden Age, a project of imperialism. The world must move forward without the USA if true progress is to be achieved. We are not the puppets of the USA. We will never be bullied by Donald Trump and his friends. South Africa remains an independent state, which is not handled by the USA. The majority of South Africans love their whites. They worship them everywhere they go. Why will they kill them? They always seek white validation and affirmation of whiteness. It is a black talent. It is a black talent. It is not a black talent until white people say so. If it is a black skill or innovation, it is not until white say so. If it is black quality product, it will have to pass many hands before they endorse this product. Any political party without white endorsement will never receive any electoral support and financial support until white establishment says so. Like the Cuban people will never give up on our freedom against American imperialism. We must unashamedly continue to stand with Palestine and Russia. We are product of international solidarity. We are Palestinians and they are Africans. We will die shoulder by shoulder with Palestinian people. We will be buried next to their graves because no amount of American bullying and financial dictatorship will separate us. Not even death will succeed. From the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free. We are not product of land theft or genocide. We are not grabbing any land, but claiming what rightfully belongs to us. We are not engaged in what genocide. Instead, we are coexisting with our white murderers. Whatever it takes, this land shall be expropriated and will be returned to its rightful owners. Victory is certain. Hasta la victoria siempre.
I now invite the Honourable the Minister of Health. The Minister of Health. Minister of Health.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, Honorable Member of the House, the initiator of the motion, Honorable Julius Malema. Honorable Deputy Speaker, today's debate is about the decision of the US government to halt aid to South Africa and the response thereto. I assume, Honorable Deputy Speaker, that most of the response are expected from me, being the minister who is in charge of health at this present moment, the hardest hit sector in Trump's announcement. I'm going to try my best to take you through this whole saga so that you understand it, because I need to share information with you. Honorable Deputy Speaker, to put this debate into perspective, it will be important to outline to this House the temporal sequence of events. As we all know, President Donald Trump resumed office on the 20th of January 2025 and immediately signed far-reaching executive orders to stop PEPFAR funding to the whole world. PEPFAR, or the President's Emergency Program for AIDS Relief, was initiated by President George Bush Jr. in 2003 and has enjoyed broad bipartisan support in the US. That means it was supported by both the Republicans and the Democrats alike. Now, what is the PEPFAR's involvement in our country? South Africa has an estimated 7.8 million people who are infected with HIV. Out of the 7.8 million, a total of 5.5 million are on antiretroviral treatment. Out of the 52 districts in our country, PEPFAR selected 27 high-burden districts to operate there, and these districts are found in only 8 provinces. There is no high-burden district in the whole of Northern Cape Province. Of the 27 districts, 7 are in KZN, 5 in Eastern Cape, 4 in Gauteng, including all their 3 metros, 3 each in Northwest and Mpumalanga, 2 each in Limpopo and the Free State, and 1 in the Western Cape, which unfortunately is the metro itself that represents close to 60% of the population of Western Cape. These 27 districts have 271,606 staff working on HIV, AIDS, and TB and STIs. Please note that these diseases are still happening in all the 52 districts. Only that PEPFAR is not involved in 25 of our districts. Of the 271,606 staff members, 256,452 are paid for from our own fiscals. This leaves us with 15,154 people in those districts who are paid for by PEPFAR, and these are the persons of concern in this saga. PEPFAR funds these people through a myriad of NGOs and academics as well as health institutions. All in all, there are 150 NGOs who depend on PEPFAR. 39 of them are principal implementing agent, and the remaining are subcontracted to the 39. ARV acquisition. I want to make it clear to the House that our own government buys ARVs to the tune of 90% of all the needed ARVs. We buy them. The remaining 10% is paid for by Global Fund, which was also established 2 decades ago to fight HIV, AIDS, and malaria in the whole world. And coincidentally, our own Deputy Minister of Health, Dr. Joe Pasha, is a member of the International Board of this Global Fund. He was appointed last year. So PEPFAR funds only salaries and operational costs. ARVs are bought by us and the Global Fund. Where are we in the battle against HIV? I'm sure you are well versed with the concept of 95-95-95, which was developed by UNAIDS, which said if in any country 95% of the people know their HIV status, if those who test positive, 95% of them are put on ARVs, and if 95% of all those who are on ARVs are virally suppressed. It means you can no longer detect HIV/AIDS in their blood. When you reach that status, you are said to have eliminated HIV/AIDS as a public health threat. Not that you have eradicated it, but you have eliminated it. And we all want to be there. Now, where are we in this 95 in South Africa? We are at 96, 79, and 94. It means the first 95 we have exited it. Our problem is on the middle 95. We are still at 79, meaning there are still people who are HIV positive who are not on ARVs. On the 25th of February, at Lillian Ngoyi Health Center and Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital, we launched a huge program to find an additional 1.1 million people who must be put on ARVs, and we must find that number by the end of November this year. This is the last mile of the journey in the fight against HIV and AIDS. We dare not falter. Come Trump or high waters, we should not falter. I don't want South Africans rather to undermine the progress we've made in the fight against this scourge. And I will tell you that in the last 15 years, since we launched this world's biggest counseling, testing and treatment campaign, this is what we have achieved. We have reduced death by HIV by 51%. And in the instance, we raised life expectancy from 53 years in 2010 to 63 years in 2020. In a decade, we raised life expectancy of South Africans by 10 years. This is unprecedented, prompting one of our own global scientist, Professor Salim Karim, to say this is only equivalent to abolition of slavery. We reduced mother-to-child transmission from 0.86 to 0.39 between 2019 and 2024. Our maternal mortality, which is a global indicator of progress, was 249 maternal deaths per 100,000 live births by 2010. We have reduced it to 86 by 2020. This is tremendous achievement, but COVID-19 came to trouble us, and we went down up to 120. We are now back in 2024 to 109. Now you can see this is a massive achievement. In 2010, a total of 25,858 babies were born HIV positive. This is called mother-to-child transmission. By 2020, we had dramatically reduced it to 7,640. That's a whooping 70% reduction in mother-to-child transmission. In 2015, we reduced TB by 56%, the instance of TB. Now, this achievement, honorable members, did not roll in on wheels of inevitability. We had to work hard on them. And I want to beg you that don't let it slip back. Don't allow South Africa to go back where it was. And I believe this debate, Honorable Malema, is to try and find a way to achieve that. We have redeployed staff in our provinces to areas of high burden. We have initiated task shifting. We encourage as many patients as possible to take their drugs for 3 months rather than 1 month. We even want to increase it to 6 months. In the meantime, we've met many funders: the Child Clinton Health Access Initiative, Elmer Foundation, Gates Foundation, Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office of the UK, our own First Rand, the trustees of Solidarity Fund, not the solidarity that ran to Trump, but the Solidarity Fund established during COVID. I want to emphasize to you that there is no government or funder in the world that has put money aside waiting for Trump to explode. That's why we meet them, but none of them will say, I give you this much. Now, I believe then Trump doesn't owe us any cent. Trump doesn't owe South Africa any cent whatsoever. And for that reason, we need to stand on our own. We must not waste this crisis. For that reason, Honorable Malema, I am challenging this House. Can we call a debate, to come and debate in this House? Why? All of us here, including all well-to-do South Africans who are on medical aid, why are we still getting heavy subsidies to stay on private medical aids? Is it fair? Should we be doing that during this difficult moment? In my language, the literal translation means during tough times, children of the same mother can survive by sharing a head of a locust. So, Akpare Malema, allow me to put it in Afrikaans to you. I know you and me don't know anything about Afrikaans, but I learned a little bit of it in Stutolwane. Mag ons voortgaan.
Honourable Minister.
Mag ons voortgaan. En hierdie self al dinge so sleg is. Dit moet nie 'n kwessie van wie die kragtig is nie. Dit moet 'n kwessie van as ons saam met die armes or praat ons net. Honourable Speaker, I hope that we did not call this session just to bash Trump. It won't help, believe you me. We are on our own, and for that reason, I am concluding by saying, please, let's call a session. Should me and you and all the well-to-do South Africans paid for by the state, should we keep on dragging heavy subsidies to stay on private medical aids? Or should we do something about it? This calls for a debate. I hope Action South Africa among the parties will support this call.
Minister, your time has
because
expired.
one of their members, Dr. Letape, as the president of the Professions
Minister,
Council,
your time has expired.
used to support this call. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister.